every youth needs that traditional guidance in their upbringing. It just teaches them to be stronger.
My mom and I actually do quite a lot of traditional activities together. She taught me how to fish, hunt, berry pick, and it actually keeps me very grounded.
If we are putting our time and effort into making sure that we are fostering leadership within our young people, we're fostering a brighter future.
We know that our elders are slowly leaving us, and if we don't learn our traditional culture, what are we then?
The toughest thing they have to do is just trying to really do well and succeed so that they can go out into the world when they're done to really do whatever they want.
Northern BC First Nations HIV/AIDS Coalition presents Facts and Fears, Healthy Living and Leadership.
I always recommend to young people to find something they like and some passion so that they can kind of try to better themselves, and it keeps them have a goal. Like for me, I wanted to be a doctor, so I just use that as my end goal, and I'm going to have to go through a lot of some traditional people would say suffering, through a lot of hard work and lack of sleep sometimes. My mother used to say, Todd, you can do whatever you want to be as long as you work hard at it. So I think those kind of supports and people like my mom were very instrumental in trying to allow me to do something like this.
I love to promote healthy living and nutrition and fitness within youth.
And then I cut it all up and then we laid out.
Along with fitness and nutrition, Augustina Caron says she grounds herself by enjoying traditional practices she's learned from her mom. And she's working hard to achieve her own goals through this solid foundation and healthy lifestyle.
I actually got into fitness just to actually make a statement that Aboriginal people who live in isolated communities can actually compete. Because I've yet to see an Aboriginal girl that I've met at a bodybuilding competition.
And then another one fish.
If I ever need one of those days where I have to go back home and just feel like myself again, my mom will take me hunting or berry picking and fishing, and it just helps me feel like back to my roots again. It tastes really good.
I would always hear people talk about on the land healing. Like one time I was out on a moose hunt and just being surrounded with family and the culture and the language, and it felt very grounding. Like it gives you purpose in life and where you want to go.
Jody Payne from the First Nations Health Authority in BC says all family members play a role in raising healthy children, resulting in healthier and stronger communities.
The way First Nations communities look at it is it's a holistic approach to raising a child. It's not just one family, There's extended family, and we all play a role in raising children in our communities. By putting the child back in the center, you're able to put roles back into the child's lives. Whereas residential school came into our communities and they took the roles away from the mothers, the grandmothers, the fathers that used to go out and hunt. So part of this holistic approach to bringing up healthy children is by having men's programs that are hunting and educating the younger boys on traditional gathering and practices, and bringing the roles back to the grandmothers of helping to raise the child.
We know that our elders are slowly leaving us, and they're bringing their knowledge with them. And if we don't learn our traditional culture, what are we then?
Wilf Plasway Jr. from Lake Babine Nation is proud of his cultural roots and has a passion for drumming and singing. Wilf's love of traditional music was ignited by his late great-uncle, Dick Alec.
When I was a small little boy, I had my little drum at a headstone potlatch, and he was drumming away, and I went up to him and my great-uncle, Dennis Alec, that was his older brother. I went up to them when they were drumming in the center, and I get to hit their drum with their drumsticks, and it was just an inspiring thing. Sometimes I always go for walks, and I bring my drum too, and I always sing into the woods, and I sing my heart out, and it's just motivating, and I really love it.
We need to try to build up our capacity and have healthier communities, and so that we can have our own self-governance and self-sustaining economies.
Recently, I started learning my language through the Tahltan Language Revitalization Program, and that's a program that they have through the University of Victoria. I mean, a nation of like 4,000 or 5,000 people and have only 30 people speak the language fluently is a huge concern to me.
Not everyone connects the same to their traditional culture, especially if there's a disconnect from their own community.
I never grew up in my own culture. I never grew up in my own traditions. I know I'm a carrier person, yet I don't necessarily practice the traditional and cultural components of our peoples. I think that comes from like a disconnect of not actually growing up within my own community.
Eric Klapatuik, originally from Bella Coola, says he identifies more as an urban Aboriginal, but has found a way to carve out his own culture within his community.
I do a lot of work with the friendship centers, and especially the one here in Quesnel, and that's kind of how I identify my own culture and community.
How are you?
I'm good. To an extent, metaphorically and like actually truthfully, saved my life in a way. And I say that just because, you know, when I was younger, I was definitely experiencing a lot of hardships as a young person and kind of identifying with my own personal self. The Friendship Center was able to help me come to the realization that, you know, I'm a human person, there's nothing wrong with anything that I'm doing, and they kind of help support and guide me into a healthier way.
Well, it starts at Susan's house, and then they're going to do a smudging ceremony there.
I have a great passion and respect for friendship centers. I see the work they do and the work they've done to really help young people. And they see as youth are needing this development. Youth are the future of our leadership. So why would we not invest our time into them?
I'm really happy to see new first people in their family graduate from high school, from university, first doctors and lawyers. We're seeing this big movement of people doing a lot more specialization in different sectors.
You know, definitely when I think of our young people, like they're our future. And if we're instilling them with all these life skills and all these just kind of good ways of thinking, I see our future being stronger. There's a lot of ways that we can achieve this. And I think it all starts with just basic conversation with our young people.
Youth support and mentorship.
Another thing that you would tell the young people is that everything that they're doing right there, even when they're in grade 8 or even before that, when they're doing really well in school, it's really going to make it a lot easier for them to accomplish whatever they want to goals, because they need that strong foundation. If they do that, then they can do whatever they want.
So, you guys want me to just start flowing it then, or?
It's always nice to be busy. So the biggest thing to keep me busy was trying to be in extracurricular activities. You know, I always want to be a doctor, so it's hard to translate that and tell that to everyone else, that, you know, everyone else should be a doctor. I think everyone needs to find their passions.
If I ever have anything on my mind, I just go to the gym, I go lift weights, or I go out for a canoe ride or go out fishing, and it really helps me connect to myself.
I tend to involve myself too much. I need to slow down. So what I want to do is start mentoring people. So when I'm asked to take on more work, I'm like, okay, you can ask so-and-so and I'll help assist them.
I've had many instances where I've hit that burnout stage, and even to this day, I still kind of struggle with it because I work so often. I maybe get like one day to myself a week, and all I want to do is sleep, right? As weird as it sounds, sleep is like one of the greatest medicines you can have around you.
Empowering youth with positive resources and activities is vital when it comes to developing them as future leaders of their own communities.
Currently, I sit as a second vice president for the Friendship Center here in Quesnel. I'm also on the executive committee for our BC Association of Aboriginal Friendship Centers. And before, I was sitting at the National Association of Friendship Centers on their executive committee. All these volunteer positions I've held have helped me develop my own self as a person, and have actually helped aid my own autonomy and kind of passions that I really strive for.
We have to work at a community level and at a population level to really work with our young people and giving them some positive resources and healthy activities so that they can make their own choices and hopefully make a good positive one.
I think how I strive to get there is just surrounding myself with good people, and that really kind of aids and it really supports my own personal well-being.
When things get difficult, youth should start a conversation by seeking out guidance and support.
I always just keep on talking to them and have an ongoing conversation with them either on social media or either in person. What I really am thankful is that they have a change of heart on whatever it is that they're going to be doing. Even including suicide, it's always comes to suicide whenever I talk to the youth.
I've had a youth come up to me and just tell me, you know, I don't feel like I am who I am. He was struggling with the fact that he was born a male, but he identified as a female and he wanted to identify as a female. Really kind of helping them understand that they're appreciated and, you know, it's like, it's totally okay. It doesn't make you less of a person.
You need to develop some trust and relationship, and I think that's probably why the reason I picked family is because you really work with them in a continuum of care, that you don't just see them in that point of interaction, but you will see them and follow up with them, and that you can make these points to try to help them and direct them into more of a healthy lifestyle.
I had a little cousin that was kind of in and out of going down a rough patch. So I kind of mentored her and encouraged her to finish school and just shared my experiences about traveling and meeting new people. And that's actually pretty cool because now she's recently graduated and attending university in the Okanagan.
Young people are being supported to pursue their passions, and this is helping to influence positive change in their own communities.
One of the things that I help bring to the community of Quesnel, and it's a program working specifically with Aboriginal people called Respectful Relationships. It's all about, you know, what is a respectful relationship? What's an unrespectful relationship? And I'm not just talking about intimate relationships. You have relationships with your employers, with all these people you meet in your life, with your teachers. The whole bottom root line that it all builds on is the prevention of domestic violence, because it's such a huge impact in communities and especially within First Nations people. Traditionally, our men and women, they never fought, they never hit each other.
Hardships on young people can sometimes be too much. Youth need to know it's important to be happy with who they are and that people out there care.
There's a lot of suicide that's going on in our traditional territory, but not just our traditional territory, but the surrounding of BC. It's really getting out of hand, and we really need to show that we care for these youth, even though that they're going through a lot. We got to be there. It's because it's really tough that they are having hard lives and they're growing up into this negativity, but we got to be there for them.
I was 18 before I came out as a gay person, and I don't necessarily like using the term like gay, but you know, I think people will find people that they love, and it's okay being who you are. Just because you identify differently with your sexuality than everyone else doesn't mean you're less of a person, doesn't mean that you know, everyone's going to start treating you differently. And those were the fears that I had the whole time.
In each group has a youth, a mid, like a teen, a mid, and an elder.
That's kind of why I keep talking about friendship centers and why I have such a high regard for them, is because they really have helped me. You know, I said friendship centers saved my life, and it's because they did. You know, when I first started friendship centers, I was really like introverted, shy person, and now I have no problem speaking to like a big group of people.
Risky behaviors and outcomes.
Some of my friends, they have struggled in their lives, and we've had to have that conversation where I'm like, you know, if you're going to partake in risky behavior, there's things you can do to prevent harm. I think having that conversation with them, being like, you know, this is what you can do to make yourself better, and when you want to seek help, I'll be here.
I see the younger youth actually smoking and partying way more than when I was a youth, right? So it makes me quite nervous.
Have a good, strong value system so that then when they go into high school, that they can really negate those alcohol and drug influences, and so that they can do well.
All these things are so accessible to anyone. If you want to get something, you can get it. My mindset with it is making sure they're instilled with the knowledge to kind of go forward in a healthy way, but also knowing if they do partake in any kind of these behaviors that they know where to go when they want to get out.
One concern is based upon the boom and bust cycle of the natural resource economy.
We have so much development in our territory, you know, we could either stay healthy and intact as a nation, or we could lose our culture and identity.
The spread of HIV/AIDS in First Nations communities is a problem that must be remedied. It's entirely preventable, and stats show that 25% of people who have HIV/AIDS don't realize they have it and are at risk of spreading it without any knowledge.
I actually sat on the youth coalition out of Prince George, the HIV task force, for about 3 or 4 years. And I know that it's a huge problem with First Nations people and communities.
What we need is to learn the basics on how to not get HIV/AIDS. And we have to be there for those who are HIV positive.
We can screen it and find out that if people have it, then we can treat it so that their viral load, the risk of transmitting to others or having complications of that, is non-existent if they're compliant with their medications and using condoms and other barrier methods, but primarily condoms, that they can prevent transmission even if they are unknown of having that.
You know, as much as I will fight this point, statistically, people who identify as LGBTQ and live within that community are much more likely to obtain. The reason why I would argue that, though, is because I don't think just because you identify as an LGBTQ person, you're more at risk. I think anyone's at risk. You don't know who the people that you might be seeing have been with, and vice versa, right?
Prevention and education are the best tools for instilling young people with understanding the risks of contracting HIV/AIDS.
Our focus shouldn't be on intervention, it should be more on prevention. And like I had said, the rapid resource development in our territory, we have people coming and going, which could be a potential risk a huge risk to our communities.
It's a real concern because we all have the risk of it if you're performing unsafe sexual practices or starting to use the drugs.
Your body's a temple, right? If you're going to put bad things into it, you're going to get a bad outcome. If you're going to put good things into it, you're going to get a good outcome. So you got to treasure your body.
Heading towards a successful future.
There's more dancing, there's more focus in community programs, social programs, that I think the youth have a really good chance. Like, there's youth empowerment workshops in the communities, there's culture camps.
I think we're in a unique place right now where we're seeing a lot more people graduate from their university degrees from their communities. We're getting a lot more lawyers and doctors. When I was in high school, there was only 17 doctors across the country. And now UBC is celebrating over 100 Aboriginal medical students graduating just from UBC alone in Vancouver, never mind across the country. We see some really great healers in our communities who really work with some vulnerable people that are really going through some issues, and they do some incredible things.
I would like to see that all our youth would, if they're having a lot of problems of suicide issues and depression and all, I would advise you all to go to any leader that you trust, or an older friend or a family member. Talk to them right away if you are really depressed and all, because we really do not want any of our youth to commit suicide, because we would like to show them that we love them and care for them, and we will always be there for them.
I asked a bunch of elders, I took their input. They were the ones that showed me how to cut it. I cut it all by hand, not with a machine.
Cultural practices and education will always play a major role in helping to shape healthier and stronger communities.
We also need to have our roots back too, and understand that we need to have that cultural backing too, and I think we need to be a better, well-rounded people. So we also have to acknowledge those people that are still continuing to do our practices and our traditions, and those people are as valuable as the people going out to do their studies.
There have been many successes to allow for more autonomy for First Nations and their communities.
We got our own health authority here in BC. So we're really trying to take ownership of our own health care services and trying to make them more culturally appropriate and community specifically appropriate. We're trying to take over our own delegated Aboriginal agencies for our child welfare and really trying to make it so that they prevent them from leaving house and give more of a supportive preventative system as opposed to taking out the children and then trying to get them back.
I think everybody should learn their language and take part and take a role in the revitalization.
I strive for motivation. I strive to seek education in the youth, and anything that gets them moving, gets their questions answered, really.
This is a great thing that we're doing, and it's just bringing together all these respected voices to kind of help talk about and push forward a common goal.
I had a friend in my undergrad, and we're having some issues with an anatomy and physiology class. And he called up his father, who was a doctor, said, "Hey, Dad, I'm having this problem." And he's just like, "Oh, this is what you do." My mind was blown because I couldn't phone my parents back home, because they don't have that background. And it'll be nice to hopefully help out some people like that. I think we're going into a good direction.
I think it really feeds into leadership and education. So those are two things that have kind of been a common theme in everything I've been talking about. But at the end of the day, those are two of the things that really are pushing forward what we're doing.